Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Tennille and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I'm Whitney.
I'm Tennille.
And today we are back in 1947. We flip-flop back, but we're back and we're watching the Czech year from Czechoslovakia and Jiří Trinka.
Yeah. Also,
yes.
Enjoy the new intro and outro.
Yes. Well, I mean, you only saw the intro so far, but there'll be a new outro at the end, too.
Yeah.
Tennille did new art, and it's great, and I love it.
I love it, too.
It's fantastic. Anyways, I want to say thank you to Michael Ray for finding this movie for us. And this is weird to say, but they found an official source for this actual movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about that too much. Official versus non-official sources.
Oh, right.
But I do want to say it is so nice to watch an old movie in HD.
Yeah.
As compared to like 480p.
Right.
It was very nice, and God, this movie was pretty.
Yeah, so the version we watched was a
restoration done in 2015.
Yeah, and it specifically said that, like, it was doing its best to restore it to be as faithful to the original as possible. So, like, nothing was tampered with to make it look better.
Quote-unquote better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Just, like, upkeep on the film, like the film files themselves, the original reels and stuff like that.
Exactly.
As compared to, like, digitally editing out errors or anything like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a fantastic way to do it.
Yep. So this is actually the first film chronologically from Jiří Trinka.
And also the first one from Czechoslovakia as a whole.
Yeah. So we couldn't watch this back in when we were doing
1947.
1947. So I'm so happy we get to finally come back to this one. And as a result, I want to say that if you're just starting through the Animation Pilgrimage timeline, you have a lot to look forward with this guy.
Yeah, Jiří Trinka, if we are pronouncing his name correctly, and I'll let you know we definitely don't for the first few reviews of his films.
Yeah.
Always does fantastic work. His stuff is great.
It's phenomenal. He's probably one of my favorite new animators we've come across.
I want his puppets.
Yeah.
I am not a collector of paraphernalia around my interests. I don't buy video game statues. I don't buy anime things.
We have a few, but like it's very sparse.
Few and far between. It's like I'll get the original media as in like the movies or the games.
Right.
But I don't usually get a lot past that.
But how awesome would it be to have like a puppet of his in a glass case.
Yeah, like an official Jiří Trinka puppet. I don't care what short or movie it's from. If I could get one from the Czech year, oh, that would be great. Because I fucking loved that one. But like, if I could have any of these that I could have in a glass case and up on my shelf, I would be over the moon. But I can only assume they cost hundreds of dollars.
That's if any still exist.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, puppets like these, even more so than like animation cells, they wear like pretty bad.
I can only assume that any that are left are in museums and stuff, because I know there's like an official Jiří Trinka museum. It's not very big.
Oh, that'd be so cool to see.
I would love to see that, but I'd have to travel all the way to Czechoslovakia to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not happening anytime
soon.
soon.
The Czech Republic.
Oh, right. Yes, because it's Czechoslovakia.
When he was making films, it was still Czechoslovakia.
But now there is the Czech Republic.
Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we'd have to travel to one of those two countries, or both, to see all of this stuff. And that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Either way, Jiří Trinka does great stuff.
the man, the artist himself, because I don't know that if in any of our reviews that come after this, I really talk about who Iji Trinka is and like where he started and all that.
I feel like we talk about him a bit, but go for it. Fill people in. I want to know.
Yay. So he graduated from the Prague School of Arts and Crafts.
Prague
School of Arts and Crafts. And then created his own puppet theater in 1936.
Okay.
It was disbanded during World War II, and so then he moved on to designing stage sets and worked on illustration for children's books.
Okay, yeah.
By the end of the war, he started his own studio and made several traditionally animated short films, but he felt limited by the medium.
I mean, fair. Every medium has its limitations.
Mm-hmm. I think based on what I saw, it just felt like there were too many things for traditional animation for him to have like complete control over the process.
I get that because with these puppets, he can oversee every part.
Right,
the
like
creation
he
of the
can
puppets
craft
and the
the
sets
whole
and the
set.
story.
Exactly.
And then he's directly involved in the animation process and stuff like that. So he has direct control over everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that in a traditionally animated sense.
Yeah. And I also find it interesting that he started working with puppet theater because I think I've mentioned this before on Animation Pilgrimage before, but when we started the project, I considered keeping puppets in as part of the films we would watch, which might seem like an odd choice to a lot of people, or why would I even consider that? Because puppetry, like, the Muppets or whatever, is not animation. Like, it is...
It's not.
It is specifically not animation. However, the way that puppeteers bring a puppet to life and make it feel like a real living thing uses so many of the same principles that animation does to make drawings or stop motion puppets or computer animated figures feel real as well.
Yes.
So the fact that Iji Trinka worked originally as like a puppeteer and then moved into stop motion animation just makes perfect sense to me.
Well, stop motion animation, but also in the middle, he did have his dabble in traditionally animated stuff too. Like, he's got like the full gambit of like how to make inanimate things feel real. And you know what? He is a masterclass at that.
Dude, this is such a night and day difference between this and Joseph that we watched last week.
And Joseph comes out in 1962. This came out in 1947.
Right.
And technically this movie was a series of shorts that was compiled into a movie. So he was working on these before 1947. And also, this same year was the year that also The Crab and the Golden Claws came out.
Right.
The Tintin movie that we also just watched. That also came out in 1947.
And also does not hold a candle to this.
No, not even close. Holy shit, he's so good. And, you're going to see this in every single movie that he does. Except for, like, to some extent, his very next film, which is his first true film that is a film by itself, which is The King and the Mockingbird.
Right.
Like, that one's fine.
It's a little rough.
But every single other one, amazing. And, like...
The King and the Mockingbird has its moments.
Yes.
Or, wait, no. The Emperor's Nightingale.
The Emperor's Nightingale, sorry.
We're talking about a different movie.
It's
King
about
and Bird.
It's a dude with a bird that's robotic. Anyways, like, none of his puppets ever have any facial expressions other than the base one. They don't blink. They don't have different mouths. These are things that other animation studios are doing with their stop motion puppets.
Or, when we get to the 60s, like Rankin Bass. Like the typical, like, chin cutout thing.
He doesn't do any of that. And these characters feel more alive than any other animated or stop motion characters ever. Ever.
Well, until, we're going to get to more modern stuff.
Yeah, modern stuff where they have so much more... they have a lot more technology to help them feel more realistic. Like things like what Tim Burton does and
Henry Selick and Laika
and stuff like that. But they're in like a completely different ballpark at that point. This is being done in 1947.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I cannot gush about the cinematography and the animation and the body language and how all of that just makes everything that the movie is trying to convey to you crystal clear, even though you don't have characters talking to each other, expressing anything, like, but you know what's going on.
We haven't really talked about the plot a lot because this movie, it technically has a plot, but because it's a bunch of shorts, the movie is told through just songs. And a lot of them are feel like they're very folk songs of Czechoslovakia.
Well, yeah, I think in terms of understanding this story, you and I can only really get vibes from it because, like, this is a story that is specifically centered around a lot of Czech traditions and folklores
and life
and stories and life. Yeah, like, we don't really connect to that on a personal level, but we can connect to it on a human level of just like
seeing the characters be, and it's great.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to outline a few of the segments that happen. And so like it starts in winter and there's a band and they're playing and singing a song, and there's like a guy with a fake bear mask and they're just dancing and singing and it's a fun time.
I actually have written down what each of the sections are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sweet. Tell me.
So first I'm going to say what like an English translation of this tradition would be, and then I will try to say what the like Czech word is for it.
Oh, this will go well.
Yeah, so the first section is Carnival, which is also called Masopust. Masopust. I think that's how you would say that.
Okay.
And yeah, that's them like all out having
fun in the snow.
Carnival. Like that tells you exactly kind of what you need to know.
They're having fun in the snow. And then after that, we kind of move into like a harvest scene.
Spring.
Oh wait, sorry, yeah, I skipped one. Spring.
Which is Jaro.
Okay. It's like a bunch of kids and they're just like playing with flowers and having a fake tree marriage.
Yeah.
And it's just them being kids and then they beat the crap out of each other.
Yep.
And then there's a harvest scene where they're harvesting stuff and then they're hit by a storm.
I think that might still kind of be part of the same thing, or what the next one that's listed is the Legend of Saint Procopius.
Yeah, that's kind of what it leads into.
Okay.
Is after the storm, they all go inside and they tell a story of a Christian dude who, like, just plows the land and stuff, and he's tempted by the devil and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that part's still really cool looking, and he hangs out with a deer. And then we move on, and there's a visit from the Romani, and they all go to their, like, little carnival thing.
This part is called the procession or pout.
Oh yeah, because it did start with a bunch of them all just like proceeding up a hill in very Christian flavor and like,
yeah,
repent and we're good and grant us prayers and stuff.
Right, and then they all go have like a festival.
And like the Romani are there and like, that's not the word the movie uses, but I'm using the correct term.
Well, yeah, like Romani travelers. You get what we're saying.
Anyways, and I will say this section is probably not the best representation.
Yeah.
As you might expect. Which is unfortunate. But, like, it's also like a love story of these two farmer kids who are, like, trying to find love, and they eventually realize, oh, we love each other.
Right, yeah.
And they also watch a puppet show.
Yeah, I love that the puppets are watching a puppet show.
The stop-motion characters are watching a puppet show. It's pretty funny. Which is also kind of, like, prejudice and racy, because, like, a Turkish man wants to marry a different country dude's daughter. And so the daughter pretends to die, and so the Turkish man sentences the dad to death because he let his daughter die. And it's like, wow, everyone in this, like, hates each other in, like, kind of a racist way.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was weird.
Anyways,
next part is Party in the Village.
Yeah, where they're just having a fun party, and they're making foods, and they're just having a good time. And there's a poor beggar man.
Yeah, this is the part where they're, like, baking all the pies.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like,
they have a party, and they...
Poor homeless person.
Yeah, they leave him out for most of the time, and then they eventually invite him in, and he plays his harp for them.
Yeah.
And
they give him pies.
Yeah. And then the band from the first section comes back, and they're playing more music. Mm-hmm. And then they get too rowdy, and they're kicked out.
Yeah.
Oh, technically in this section, there's also...
By the way, yes. This would be called Posvins... Oh, shit. Posvicini.
Posvicini? I don't know. That's more of like an Italian pronunciation.
I don't know. I really want to pronounce this like more Italian, but like, obviously that wouldn't be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's also a tale of a guy getting sent off to war, and then he's pronounced dead, so his bride-to-be marries off, and then he comes back because he actually didn't die, he just lost a leg, and that's sad.
That was a real bummer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And then there's more parties and dancing, and it just kind of ends on a quiet note.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then our last story is like a Bethlehem tradition.
That's right. Sorry. It was just like more overtly Christian stuff, and I'm just like, I start to check out in sections like that. I'm going to be honest.
Well, what I found interesting about it is that it's obviously like these biblical stories, but with the history and folklore and cultural traditions twist from the Czech people.
Yeah.
And I always think that kind of thing is interesting. Like, whenever we hear, like, Bethlehem traditions that come from, like, Mexico and stuff like that. And we've seen that in a few animated films. And I think that's always fun, how a different culture, like, co-ops these religious experience or, like, folklore experiences into something for their own culture, you know?
Yeah. I getcha.
Mm-hmm. And then, instead of Bethlehem, I guess in Czech this tradition is called Betlem.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're essentially just playing out the story of going to see Jesus in the manger and stuff, except
and like knocking on people's houses and
stuff like that. Yeah. This movie's great.
Mm-hmm.
There is no giant, amazing, overarching story of awesomeness, but like, I just love watching E.G. Trinka's puppetry at work.
I cannot overstate how good this animation is for and not even just for 1947. Just, this is the best stop motion animation we get until, like, The Nightmare Before Christmas comes out.
Probably. I mean, we're in our current spot, we're in the early 80s, so who knows? Maybe we'll find something else that's very good in there.
I mean, like, there's other smaller projects, like, I think maybe Wallace and Gromit from Aardman, like the shorts.
Yeah. I think those start in the 80s?
80s, 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s,
somewhere
in there. Yeah, but like, stop motion... like most animation just kind of like lulls off.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes back in force.
Yeah, and I was talking to you about this, but just the intent behind the stop motion animated films we've watched up to this point in Animation Pilgrimage makes a big difference between E.G. Trinka's work versus literally anything else, where E.G. Trinka is super aware of the limitations of his medium.
Mm-hmm.
And So he's making art, and he is finding a way and thinking around ways to make it work.
Think outside the puppets.
Right, and where he's thinking with the puppets in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he's using his camera in ways that are honestly pretty revolutionary for animation in general.
Dude, this movie creates curved walking surfaces so that the puppets can walk and like the background pans behind them as they're walking. That's so cool.
Clever. I can't. And like it's using quick edits too. Something that is not super common in film up to this point. And is used super well. It's used in a way that is like eerily similar to how we would use a quick edit today. But like for 1947, that's super impressive.
Oh, it's so... Watch it. It's good.
I shouldn't say like quick edit, but like a quick cut between shots. Like it'll show like a foot stomping down. And because it's a puppet, like it can't really
impact
stomp,
but
you know?
Feel it.
But you feel it because the way the camera like emphasizes it and then quickly cuts away. It doesn't linger and make it feel awkward and clunky.
Yeah.
It's so many little details and touches as compared to basically any other stop motion animated film we've watched where
let's directly compare it to like The Crab with the Golden Claws. That movie was more so using stop motion, but just directly translating panels of the comic into a quote-unquote moving medium.
Right.
So,
probably because they looked at the logistical ways to like traditionally animate it and they're like, I don't think we can do that.
And so it's very simplistic and it's a lot of held shots of just what the panels of the comic looked like. And then we can also compare it to Joseph the Dreamer, where it's very, very obvious that they're puppets and
they're doing it on a budget.
Yeah,
they're doing it on a
very small budget.
And so they're using the puppets because puppets are cheaper. You know, and they have to do all of this in a garage. So, you know, they can set up their stages and stuff in a little attic garage shed or whatever.
Yeah. It's also just very simple. The characters definitely just feel like puppets. More so than compared to these characters that made by Iji Trinka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's unfair to say that Iji Trinka is the only person making good stop motion animated films, because we did see a few others that were extremely well crafted, like De Seven Ravens.
Yes, right, yes.
It's been a long time, but...
Yes, you're right, absolutely.
But those are very few and far between. Most of the time, stop motion is being used as a way to make a product cheaply, as opposed to really make it feel like these puppets are alive and moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I loved this. I love Trinka's work. And I definitely think you should check him out, because he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
almost
he
always
didn't...
a highlight of every year that his movies are in.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's an artist who, didn't live very long. He didn't even make it to his 60s. So,
that sucks.
Who knows what else we could have gotten from this man had he lived longer. But, yeah, fantastic stuff.
All right, so before I say what we're doing next time, I don't remember if we mentioned it last episode or the episode before that, but remember how at the end of 1981, during that wrap-up episode, I said we had 9 movies to go back and watch? Which was a crazy amount of movies to go back and watch.
Yeah. It's more than doubled.
We have 20 films to watch before we get to 1982. almost exclusively between two people, Michael Ray, who gave us this movie, and Orbited Star. These two people, I feel like...
These two mad lads.
I feel like they're competing with each other at this point. Like, they're trying to see who can give us more movies than the other person. So, there have been other people. There are other people that gave us movies here as well. But, like, it's mostly these two. And so we have 20 films.
Ridiculous.
2-0. I mean, that also includes this movie and the last two movies we watched.
Right.
But that's 20 movies before we get to the next numbered year.
Y'all are never gonna let me have my satisfaction of getting to 1982, are you?
Oh, boy. Anyways.
That's fantastic.
So,
what are we watching next?
Speaking of old movies, we're going backwards even farther. But you know what? This is the farthest back we can go because this is the earliest movie on our list that we couldn't find before.
Wow.
We are going to be watching Garbanchito de la Mancha from Spain in 1945.
Wow. I think the other Spanish film we watched as like a first was Johnny the Giant Killer.
Yeah, and that was like in the late 50s or something.
Yeah, so
this is super early for them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
So I'm super excited to go watch this.
Yeah, awesome.
See you guys then.
Potkal jsem na cestě tajtrdlíka. Nebyl to tajtrdlík, byl to profás. Kdybych byl neutek